So I am Simon Tegelid. I'm an engineer here at NIRA. Lately, my work has been shifted away from engineering work toward this innovation work. I started here 3 years ago as an engineer in the new technologies and business department. And I came to realize that we're a few people working in this innovative area. And I came to realize that why is it just me or my few colleagues that do this innovation? I started sort of asking myself, how can we solve the right problems? What does it say that my colleagues out there, we're 170 people in this company working with engineering stuff. Why is it only me who should innovate and find new things for us for the future? So we came across these design sprints maybe a year ago, and we started exploring how they can help us to bring the best out of all our colleagues in the innovation work, not just me and my handful of people. So lately I've been running these design sprints. So I've been, as I said, shifted away from my own engineering work towards leading other people in this sort of innovative design sprints. So today I will talk a bit about how we do this. The design sprint is an established process, but we have been modifying a bit so that it fits us in the automotive area. So I will go back and forth between the original design sprint as it was formulated by Google it was a guy named Jake Knapp at Google in 2009, I think, between 2009 and 12 somewhere, where he started to sort of formulate this process as he went with his design work. And I will talk a bit about how the original process and how we have modified it so that it is us and not the sort of the web development community that Google is working in. So there are a few differences, which I will get into. But the purpose is to answer critical business questions in a 5-day process. So it's the whole idea with a sprint is to gather a team of relevant people for the task at hand and sit together and focus on one thing during 5 days. And I named this talk to understanding solving the right problem, because it's a vital part of the sprint to first understand the problem and then solve it. So this design sprint, the whole work is sort of way before you start with the MVP stuff and start spending money on prototyping. So you can say that you shortcut the debate cycles that might take weeks or years to develop this MVP. Imagine a sales guy coming home from a conference in the US and he has a buzzword that someone wants to buy. So instead of just giving that buzzword to a team of engineers, you can set up a design sprint to dig into that buzzword and find out what's it all about. Because it's for sure that this sales guy, he doesn't know everything about what the customer really wants. He just has the buzzword. So don't launch an MVP until you know what that buzzword means. That's sort of the idea here. And you get, during the sprint ends with a test. So you don't have a product, but you have something tiny that you can test on your potential customers. So you get the feeling for, is this a viable product? Will it be a viable product if you spend more money on it or not? So that's the idea, to answer these sort of questions in just 1 week. It might be so that you realize that no one wants this buzzword. No one wants it. And then you know that just 1 week later. You haven't spent a year of 5 engineers doing work. And then you have to scrap it. So these things were the things that caught our attention and why we wanted to explore it. And it turns out that it worked really well. So we have decided that we want to do this. So I started with this, and people are coming to me, hey, we heard about this design sprint. Can you help us run a design sprint? And I'm like, no, I can't just. I don't want to. I'm an engineer. I don't want to do design sprints 100% of my time. I think it's fun, but it's starting going that direction now. So people wanted this so much, so we need to find a way how we can manage that. That's another topic. So before you run a design sprint, you set a target. It might be so that you need to have something to talk around. If the sales guy comes home with an idea, I talk to the customer. He wants an ice cream machine that makes blue ice cream. So instead of developing that machine, you can sort of find a buzzword for the week. Develop an ice cream machine with blue ice cream. To just have a wide scope of what you're dealing with. To get an understanding of which team, which sort of engineers do you need for this task, or which resources do you want, or which customers do you need to, or stakeholders do you need to interview to get their opinion of how this sort of ice cream machine should work. So this find the buzzword thing happens maybe, I don't know, 2 months before you do the design sprint. Just to get the ball rolling, building up this design sprint. You know what, this buzzword, it shouldn't be a buzzword. I wrote buzzword, but it shouldn't be a buzzword. It should be something, a formulation that sort of, when you talk about it with your colleagues, they should understand sort of in which direction that the design sprint is intended to find the problem to solve. So this is an example of maybe a too wide formulation. How might we redesign public toilets in India? Maybe too wide topic for a week to solve. So then you need to think, how can we narrow it down to get it doable within a week? But you don't want it too narrow either, because you don't want to solve the problem in this formulation, because then you sort of get your engineer's vision too narrow on a topic. So this sort of, how might we create a doorknob for Indian toilets that's clean, safe, and invites users in? In this sort of formulation or buzzword thing, you already have sort of solved the problem. You have already decided that it should be a doorknob. That might not be the case, for example. So you can go back and forth with yourself few weeks before the design sprint just to find this well-phrased target for the sprint. How might we create a sense of safety in public toilets? Yeah, that's maybe gripable for a week to solve. And then you can start working with, who should we involve for this sprint? Which engineers do we need? Which stakeholders do we need to sort of bring in for the design sprint to be successful? So the team here at NIRA, we don't want to invite just these superhero engineers that always is these innovative guys or girls, but it should be somewhat relevant for the task at hand. But all employees should get to participate as well. So this is we want to combine the knowledge of everyone's heads. I realize that it's a touchy subject to tell the engineers when you have assembled a team. Am I relevant, or am I just this all employees bullet? So you have to. I went too deep into that topic a while ago, so I tried to smooth this out a bit when I describe this to my colleagues. But then in the design sprint, there's this book. I can mention the book, the sprint book. I haven't written it. It's by Jake Knapp at Google. It's really good. A lot of examples and stuff. It could be half as thick, but it's I can recommend it if you're trying to do this. And it describes a few special roles that you need to have in the team during the week. Some roles are part of the team, and some roles are not part of the team, but might be other relevant colleagues or so. So the first role, super important, is a decider. A sprint is not a democracy. You do a lot of voting and stuff during the week, but in the end you have a decider, someone that says that this is the direction they want to go. Because you might end up in a situation where your engineers chooses the most fun problem to solve, not the one that's going to sell. So we try to involve some business owner or a salesperson. Might be this sales guy that went home from the US with this ice cream topic. And the decider is part of the team during the week, so he or she is also part of the whole design process, coming up with ideas how to solve the problem. And this is a really important role to have. And then we have the facilitator, someone who manages schedule, someone who knows how to get everyone to talk. You know, you have these silent colleagues that doesn't say much, and you have these super exciting colleagues that takes over the whole room. And then you have a facilitator. This is not necessarily a part of the team, but it's an important role to have to get everyone to talk, because even the silent colleagues are having good ideas. And the facilitator is also keeping track of your milestones during this week. And we have started a partnership with Usify. We have 2 colleagues here from Usify today, see? And they're super good at this facilitating part. I'm an engineer, so I'm not an expert in that area, but they are. So we have started a partnership there, so we can have someone to call when my colleagues want to run a design sprint. Then I can just hand over a business card. Yeah, call them. They'll be here in 4 weeks. And they have experience of, I don't know, tons of workshops similar to this. So they know all of the secrets that we don't. So we're super excited to see how this is going to happen. And where it's going, we don't know, but it's we have started this. We'll see. And then you might have other key players that are also not part of the team during the week, but it might be these people, your colleagues, that are too busy to be in part of the team, or you don't want the same people always in the team, but at the same time you want to have their input during the week. So then you can identify, before your week starts, you identify a few key players that you book at certain times during the week, and just say that, hey, we might call you, but I don't know, so just please don't be in a meeting to get valuable input, because it's just pretty tight process and you don't have time to book a new meeting or so. So you don't want to do that on beforehand to get your answers quickly. And the outcome of the week is a prototype that is just enough. Shouldn't be a prototype, but it's something that it's just enough to collect feedback from customers or stakeholders. So in the end of the week, you call your customers and show this prototype just to have something to talk about. It might be a sketch or a whiteboard drawing or some draft prototype that you made up in a few hours on your computer. But it shouldn't be any code, or might be code as well if you want to, but just enough. Don't overdo this. This is what you get. And this has been a disappointment for my managers. They want to do something. I want something real. I don't want a paper product. But then when you start to talk about it with them, they understand why this is important, and you should focus on understanding the problem and testing that understanding, not to develop a product which you later on understand that it was the wrong product. So then my managers are happy when I tell them that. You don't get a product in a week. That's something else. I don't do that. So I will talk a bit about the week, these 5 days, Monday to Friday. And there are some certain goals that you can sort of keep in mind for each day. So you start with Monday to understand the problem. And this is what I named my talk after. The Monday, this is the most important day of the week. And after each week, we have this retro just to capture the feedback from all the colleagues that were involved. And they all say that Monday, this was the best day. You get to talk to the customers, you get to really dig into the customers and ask these questions. And the customers are all, it's potential customers, I should say. They're not customers yet because there's a product, but potential customers. So the engineers get to actually speak to someone who might be interested in this future product. And the customers are also super excited to get to talk to someone who might develop their dream product. So this is a really good part of the process. And as I said, the most important part to really dig into this. And you need to, before you move on to Tuesday, you need to understand the problem. This is, you get this. So the process is you call the customers. It's typically one engineer in a team interviewing one customer. And the rest of the team is sitting next to that conversation, might be remote. So you have a Teams conversation where everyone but one is in one room. And then you have one colleague who's interviewing the customer in another room. And then you get this one-to-one communication, just an open discussion about what the customer wants. And the rest of the team, they sit in another room and just take notes on Post-its. So yeah, let's talk about this. I want this. And then you have 100 Post-its after these sessions. And when you talk to a handful of customers during an intense morning, you spend the rest of the day working with these notes. You have a whiteboard full of notes, and you can start to, most notes say the same thing because you were listening to the same interviews, but you get to see patterns. All customers wanted this, and this customer wanted something completely different. And you get to get the picture of what is really that we need to do. What's the first thing that we need to do to get the product launched? So you both get a sort of a understanding of the first problem that you need to solve. And you're also starting to see these dependencies. So yeah, to solve their second need, you need to do this, we need to do this first, and then we can do this. So this is a really, really exciting part of the process. And when you have sort of chosen one problem, you have one golden Post-it from Monday. You can stick that golden Post-it on a whiteboard and you save the rest for later. Take a photo or something and save it for later. But you have this one formulation on the problem. And after Monday, you know the problem. We haven't touched any solutions to it yet. It's just the problem. You have isolated that part to Monday. And then on Tuesday, we start with that one Post-it, and then we start thinking, how can we solve this? How can we do it? Should it be a website? Should it be a VR headset thing? Or should it be a, I don't know, physical thing? So everyone get to brainstorm. You spread out, do things individually, and then you get together again and talk a bit about it, and you might spread out again, and you go back and forth, getting as big pile of solutions as you possibly can during a day, essentially. And you say that for Wednesday. So this is where you just empty all your engineers' heads and get as many solution opportunities as possible for this particular problem. And then on Wednesday, you have this big pile from Tuesday. So now you need to start working with these solutions and choose the best solution for the problem that you chose on Monday. So all the big pile of Post-its or whatever you made your solutions on, you just tape them on the wall, and everyone in the team gets to discuss around these solutions. You get to present your own ideas, and you get to vote on parts of the problems or solutions. I like this part. I like this menu up here, and I like that part of this is really good to have down there. And you start to cherry pick parts of solutions. This is what you do Wednesday morning, talking and voting and stuff on your proposed solutions. And on Wednesday afternoon, you draw this storyboard as a comic strip on a whiteboard. And you start to narrow it even more down to one solution. You have one problem. You're now starting to have one solution, and you make this first map on how you will present this to a customer on Friday. How can we sort of test this? So you start to write this comic strip. In the original sprint book, there are a lot of website examples. So there you might start with a login page. And everyone knows a login page. So you sort of setting the stage for the customer. And then when you click next, you get to some other view, and you get to talk a bit about how can we present this to bring forward our ideas to the customers to get valuable feedback back to us. And this is where you shouldn't overdo it. You shouldn't. You should just realize what is the most minimal thing that we need to do to get valuable feedback back from our customers. And this is what you do on Wednesday. And here, this is where the decider gets to sort of chip in the most. This is also on Monday, of course, but that's, from my experience at NIRA, Monday is more of a democratic thing. Most people, you get to reason, and you're pretty much agree on this is the most important problem to solve. But on Wednesday, the decider gets to make tough decisions. Might be so that the engineers find a cool solution. Yeah, this is what we want to do. It's super. You have buttons everywhere, and it's looks super advanced, and you can do everything. But then the decider say, no, I want my ice cream machine who makes blue ice cream. I don't know. And we can have buttons everywhere. We won't sell. We need to do something better. Yeah. So the decider gets to make this, despite all the votes and stuff that you have made. The decider gets to use, this is the direction we want to go. We can't present this like it as you get it. And then on Thursday, this is a pretty simple day. You have made all the decisions up front. You have understood the problem. You have chosen a direction to solve. You have written a storyboard on a whiteboard. So Thursday is just to make it look nicer. Build a prototype. Might be a PowerPoint, might be an interactive thing on a computer, might be something that's relevant for the task at hand. But you make it look nice so that you have something on Friday to present for your customers. And you also choose an interviewer for Friday. So one person in the team knows on beforehand that I will do this. I will talk to the customers, or if you need more people in the team talking. So they know that on beforehand, they can start preparing questions and stuff. So we have been doing some sort of interactive, clickable prototypes here. It looks pretty nice within just, 3 hours of work, but it looks pretty decent. But then we have had these super nerdy engineering problems where we have designing a measurement on a measurement or something that's, you can't really, it's just mathematics. You can't draw it on a whiteboard. So then we have just went with a PowerPoint. How can we get a business owner to understand what we're doing? So then we ended up with a PowerPoint, and they're super disappointed that it just ended up in a PowerPoint, because a PowerPoint, you can do that in a Monday. Why have you done the whole week? Just a PowerPoint. But then when they see it and the engineers get to sort of describe what we have been doing during the week, we're just using the prototype as a foundation for discussion. Then the business owners or stakeholders understand the purpose of it, and then they're not so disappointed anymore. And then on Friday, we call the customers again, or the stakeholders, might be internal stakeholders, but someone who's interested in this outcome, and test this. We show the prototype, have this sort of discussion as we had on Monday, but this time it's more of explaining what we have been doing and why we have chosen the direction that we have been doing, and primarily asking them to come with feedback. We don't try to sell this on Friday. We test this. So we're asking them, well, what do you want to see here? Is something missing? How do you feel when you see this? Or is this relevant for your use case? And it might be so that you have chosen to not listen to one of the customers that you interviewed on Monday. You had this outlier who wanted something completely different. And they understand this when you call them back on Friday. And they don't understand why you have chosen to go this direction. I wanted this, and you've chosen to do this. But then you get to explain that, yeah, we talked to a few people and you wanted something else and we can't satisfy your needs. But we've done this. And you still get valuable input from them because they understand that someone else might need this. And it's still in the sort of same area because we recruited them from the same business. But their needs was, we might not have realized that on beforehand that their needs was so different. But it's a really interesting part to be, or an interesting moment to be part of, to understand that we couldn't solve your problems, or we might solve them in the future, but not now. And they have valuable input because they want this other product. So they get feedback, or they feedback information on this other thing that we did, so that we later on can do the things that they want. So it's super exciting, and you get really valuable input. So this is sort of what you get when you walk out on Friday. You have this prototype and you have really valuable input on what the customers had to say about it. So as I mentioned, from Monday, you don't only get this prototype as an outcome, but from Monday you get this bunch of problem areas to revisit in the future. It might be input to a rollout plan, a 5-year or 10-year rollout plan for a long project. Because the customers probably want the same thing in 5 years, at least in our business, in the automotive industry. Trafikverket will want the same thing in 7 years as they want today, and they still won't have it in 7 years. It won't change much. But then you have this. Yeah, we heard this 7 years ago. We can do it in a year or two from now. And then from Tuesday, you discard. You have this big pile of solutions. Might be a really good ideas that you decide to not go forward with at this moment, but it still might be much value in this pile of ideas that you can save for later. Might be so that when VR headsets are cheaper, we want to move forward with this solution, but not now. So this is also something that you should keep when you do this. And I think the sprint book isn't, we have realized that we use this, you say this later, the sprint book isn't super clear about that. They just focus on this prototype. And then of course from Friday you get this prototype with customer feedback. And the whole Monday part, in the original process, you don't recruit customers to interview on Monday. There is a sort of time slot on Monday where they call it Ask the Experts. And that point, if you want to be a process, I don't know, if you want to follow the process entirely, then you might use that point to call someone in, but it's not really used to that in the original process. So we have modified this to bring customers in because we believe that we don't know everything in-house. We want to talk to the customers to get more valuable input from us, because our own input, it's still in the room during the whole week. So we try to fill up the team with more information on Monday. So that's the main difference from the original sprint that we have made. And also when you have these super nerdy engineering tasks where you can't really spend the whole Thursday on prototyping something, then we might put more focus on beforehand when you're planning the sprint, more focus on Monday and Tuesday, and stretch it out a bit, because we realized that we might do this prototyping thing, a PowerPoint, we might actually do that in half a day. So we do that Thursday afternoon. to have something to test on Friday. So this is essentially it for the design sprint. We have been running these 4 times now, and 3 times, and the 4th is upcoming in 2 weeks. There's a lot of talk and rumors about this. You heard it, you can hear the talk in the corridors. Yeah, I'm recruited to this design sprint now in 2 weeks. And you have this. I heard that. I hear that from the people I talked to, the recruit from the next sprint. Yeah, I heard that the conference room was too small last time, so can we get a bigger room? Or the fika didn't last until Thursday. It went out on Wednesday. Will you buy more fika? And I was like, yeah, of course. So a lot of people talk about this. So only a few colleagues have been involved now, but everyone knows about it and everyone wants to run it. So we really believe in this process to test things really early. And it's also a cultural thing that everyone gets to participate in these innovative things. So yeah. And I said that I'm not an expert in facilitating and interviewing people. So I use FIR. So I shouldn't tell anyone how to conduct interviews. But this is the 4 bullets that I show for my colleagues before the Monday interviews and before Friday interviews. And it's essentially the bullet 2 and 3 here that is most important. To ask open-ended questions. Let the other part talk. Just get them talking. And then you sort of understand what it is about. Don't try to sell anything. Just ask open-ended questions. And ask broken questions. This is actually a really good thing because we're engineers, we're not interviewers. So we're pretty crappy at conducting interviews. So a lot of questions are broken. And then you get the customers talking because they fill in when they realize that he doesn't know what to say. And then they sort of fill in with information. This is a super good part. That was what I had.